super old man comment incoming, but I feel like so many more people go down the highway at like 110 miles an hour than when we were growing up. Is that just me? It's like on my way home from work, I literally saw like 3 or 4 people.
No, it's fucking bad out here.
It seems
It's
bad.
scary, yeah.
I saw a Tesla doing that for the first time, which I don't know why that struck me as like really weird and funny. I was just like picturing a guy with the freaking like auto drive on, just like conked out. Tesla's weaving in and out.
I wish.
Yeah. But I was thinking like if I get a self-driving car, I want it to copy specifically my style of driving. Like I want it to imprint on me like a baby bird.
Yeah, totally. Just like 65, just cruising.
Yeah. Occasionally cutting someone off
Yeah.
just to keep a little bit of humanity on the road.
That'd be
Hey,
perfect.
welcome to our show. We talk about video games. Before we get into what games we're playing, just want to go over, we'll be talking about Fallout. We've now both watched the entire series, and we both really liked it, so we're excited to talk
Mm.
about it. A lot of Fallout news. Fallout London has some interesting news. No Rest for the Wicked, really interesting video came out about that. Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 announced right before we started recording.
Oh yeah.
Very interesting. Very exciting stuff.
Exciting.
Dom, what games have you been playing this week?
As always, and always will be,
Mm-hmm.
getting disappointed in League of Legends.
Yes.
Until the end of time.
As it is. That's
Yeah,
what you do with
as it
those
is.
games. Yeah.
But besides that, I've been playing Fallout 4 quite a bit.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of modding and trying to get it to work. I first downloaded it for my PS5 though.
Yeah. Yeah, I've been hearing some people have been having issues with it.
Yeah, it it was bad. I downloaded it and I when I had it for PS4, I had the season pass, so I had all the DLC, so I downloaded everything over again, and
Yeah.
I couldn't get past the loading screen. Like
Like the initial loading screen of the game.
the initial loading screen of the game. Like it would, like when you started, it starts with like they have the little um the Pit Boy like cartoons.
Mm-hmm.
It would
Right.
crash right like 10 seconds into it. Did it about 4 more times, crashed, and I was like, "All right, what the hell?" So I looked it up and I'm
That's
like,
crazy.
it was nuts. What was nuts was when as soon as I typed it in, I didn't even finish typing and Google already autocorrected to Fallout 4 not working on PS5.
Whoa.
So Google knew. And then
I'm used to that on like PC a bit, but it's really weird for me to think about someone with just like a PS5 being like, I liked the show, I'm gonna buy it, and then it just doesn't work.
oh
That's
my,
crazy.
I feel bad for anyone who just bought it.
Totally.
I feel bad for anybody who buys a Bethesda game. But so I read about it. They said it's the Nuka-Cola DLC. So I uninstalled that.
Okay.
And then I booted it and I got to the character creation screen, which is just, the protagonist, whoever you're gonna choose. Um and they just were frozen in front of the mirror. And I was like, what the
Mhm.
heck is happening? Pressing all the buttons and trying to figure out what's happening. And then I finally just press pause. And then all of a sudden I just hear all of the dialogue all at once in the pause menu.
In the pause
And
menu, that's
in
dope.
the
That's
in the
good.
pause menu. And then I click unpause and then I just
Dude, that's a speed run technique right there. You gotta post that in the Discord.
press pause. Um, and I stopped playing it on there, download it on PC, had a couple of hiccups, got some mods, did some INI filing, tweaking,
Yep.
and it's great though.
All
I'm
part of the
enjoying it
Bethesda
again.
experience.
Yeah, totally. Besides that, still playing Dragon's Dogma.
Totally.
Still loving that game. Still as funny. Still a lot to explore. Yeah, just really enjoying that, and I can't wait for you to pick it up one day.
Yes, when it goes on sale, most likely. I'm really excited to play it at some point. I liked the first one a lot. Um, yeah, I've also been playing Fallout 4. Been playing it on Steam Deck, on the Steam Deck OLED.
How's that?
It's good. It's minorly broken, as you would expect. Uh, I'm amazed. New Vegas was kind of the same way. Valve does some sort of magic with their Proton compatibility layer to where games that are really unstable often run more stable through converting it from Windows to Linux. I don't know how they do it. New Vegas, it's the first time I've been able to play it
Wow.
since it just actually works, you know? Fallout 4, it runs fine. Notoriously, Fallout 4 has that issue where when you go above 60 frames per second, just stuff
Mhm.
starts breaking, loading screens or physics or whatever.
Yeah.
So when you're running the Steam Deck at 90 frames per second, the game runs at 60. And then if you try and adjust the frame rate of the Steam Deck at all, it like ruins the frame rate of the game. So I just am leaving it alone.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah,
fine.
yeah.
It's pretty easy to get it to stay at 60.
And 60 is that's a good frame rate to run it at.
Oh yeah, especially on a handheld. I feel like there's a little bit of grace there.
Mhm.
Uh, of course, still playing Balatro, of
Oh, yeah.
course.
Yep.
And then I picked up the System Shock remake for like $12 or something on a
Oh,
Steam
nice.
sale.
How's that going so
I
far?
It's good. I've only played the first couple hours, but it's really easy to get 60 frames. If you bump up the graphics, you can get like 40, 45 frames, which is
Oh,
a
no.
really nice like sweet spot,
Mhm.
especially for that type of game. The action's like not crazy fast or anything, but really pretty, really pretty. I love that we're at a spot now with indie games where the art style can be like incredibly intentional and uh, stylish.
Yeah.
And it doesn't look expensive, but I appreciate the art style exactly as it is. Like I wouldn't want it any different either. I
Totally.
don't need tons of ray tracing or anything. It has this very nice like modern and retro. Got that modern retro thing going on. When you go
Mhm.
up close to textures, they're clearly very sharp, but they're pixelated. It's really neat.
Oh, wow.
Um, and the file size for the game reflects that as well. It's like a 12 gigabyte game or something, surprisingly.
That's kind of amazing nowadays.
Totally. Totally. I'm very excited to play more of that for sure. Fallout. We watched all of it. We watched through to the end. We will be
Mhm.
talking about lots of details literally up until the last shot of the series. So if you
Totally.
haven't seen it, major spoiler warning, we're going to be talking about a lot of random details throughout.
Yeah. It's great. Show's so good. It's wacky, it's crazy, there's depth, it's pretty,
Mhm.
it's it's exactly what I want in a TV show, and it's exactly what I want from a Fallout TV show.
100%.
I I enjoyed it. I binged we or me and Alex, we binged it in one night. Just
Heck yeah.
went for it, and it was amazing. Um, Practical effects are great. Story
Mhm.
arcs are great. Um, yeah, I don't know. I I'm surprised that video game adaptations are getting as good as they are, and not because they shouldn't, but because they haven't.
Totally. Totally.
Yeah, what
Don't
did you think? What are you
Borderlands.
thinking about it?
I have a feeling Borderlands is going to bring us right back down to earth.
Oh
That's my
man, yeah, that trailer
sorry. Staying positive.
sucks. I mean, oh
Sorry. Staying
yeah,
positive. Uh, oh, that's amazing. Yeah, I am a massive fan of Westworld. So the fact that Jonathan Nolan and multiple people from Westworld were going to be working on this got me super excited immediately. Um, the writing is really good in terms, like you said, the character arcs, story arcs, dialogue. I love the dialogue. There's so many fun little characters throughout the show.
Mhm.
Feels very Fallout. So many like quirky, weird interactions
Yeah.
that are just world building and funny. Like, uh, I will say, Sam and I watched it. We didn't binge through all of it, but we were enjoying it so much that I would like have somewhere to be where I'm like, oh, I gotta leave in 10 minutes, and we just finished an episode. And we're like, obviously, we're watching 10 minutes of the next episode and then pausing it. Like, we're squeezing it as much as possible. And
Totally.
like I mentioned last week, Sam hasn't played the games and she loved it just as much as me. She
Mhm.
couldn't stop talking about it. So
Oh,
she
yeah.
loved it. But yeah, like the guy that she meets immediately that uh says like, "Oh, you can live here with me," or whatever, and he's like uh not wearing pants or whatever, and they
Yeah,
keep
like wearing a diaper.
so they can see his diaper. The show's really funny. I was amazed and loved how funny it was.
Yeah, there
The
is so many
two
weird things in the show.
Yeah, yeah, it has that New Vegas wackiness. We talked about that last week as well, but I'm glad that it continued throughout the show. The two old ladies that are repairing the guy's leg that got all like chewed up. I forget that character's name, but
Yeah.
they're repairing his leg, and he's bleeding out his leg, and he's like freaking out, and they're just being such old ladies like, "Where'd you put the robot legs, Marge?" It's, oh my gosh, I love it.
Yeah. The it's so bad. But the chicken fucker, dude,
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
like,
that was really
"What?
funny. Yep.
Stupid." And then he actually does something later on,
Like a
like
main
for
character, or like a main
yeah.
part of the scene later, yeah.
It's like, "What?" So weird, so goofy. It's just wacky in all of the best ways.
Mhm.
And also, I was just thinking about this last week because we were saying like, um, oh, gory, like it doesn't need to be gory. But then I was just thinking, oh, when you go into vats
Totally.
and you shoot someone in the face and their head falls off, it's a little
Yeah,
bit cartoony on the game because the physics are so funny. But I was like, oh,
for sure.
it still fits in the same universe because of the VAT system.
100%. It feels it the going back to the first episode, but, when the ghoul is introduced, not Cooper, but Cooper as a ghoul, when he's introduced and he grabs the shotgun and shoots the dude in the face and his whole head explodes, it feels, like, remarkably Fallout. I didn't think that
Yeah.
you could copy a head explosion from Fallout in live action, but they did. I like how much it feels like the game, again, not like a TV show version of the game, but there are things that feel like the game. I,
Yeah.
I love when with like the chicken fucker dude of multiple times characters walk into a scene and they have to make like really snap important judgments about
Mhm.
things, and things are rarely ever as they seem, or even if they kind of are as they seem, there's like a lot more depth that the main character doesn't realize of that scene.
Oh,
And
yeah.
that feels so much like a video game, having to make these like moralistic decisions with too little information. Like there's things in this show that I didn't pick up on from the games until I saw it in a show where I'm like, that is just like Fallout. That's awesome.
Totally. Yeah, with all of the weird encounters you have and, like, how, like, NPCs will just, like if you have a random conversation with an NPC in the game, it's like, "What in the world are you talking about?" "Yeah, sure, I'll help you." That's exactly what is happening in the
Yeah,
show, and it's awesome.
yeah. I love how yeah, oftentimes in the show characters don't react how you expect them to, and it adds a lot of depth to the show, and it's
Mhm.
also how the game works. The environments are crazy. If I happen to like work on that show and I was just standing in some of those sets, like I would have probably cried. Like they feel like almost every single shot feels so Fallout, and that's very impressive. That's so hard to do. Even with like such good references as the games, just as
Oh,
a set or costume designer or whatever, it's really impressive how much they nailed the aesthetic and feel of the games.
totally. Yeah, I was watching, like, a short video on IGN. They were talking to John Nolan and, um, Bethesda guy, Todd
Todd Howard?
Howard. But,
Yep.
it was showing, Jonathan Nolan on set in a vault, and I was like,
Mm.
"It's real." Like, they made a whole
Yeah,
vault. That's
totally,
amazing.
totally. There's so much practical in all that. You're used to seeing like, and I get it. This show was fortunate enough to have a pretty large budget, but
Mhm.
there's so many shows now where they show behind the scenes footage, and it's like there's a set directly outlining the person, and then it's like all blue screen beyond
Yeah.
that. Which again, I understand why, but
Mhm.
with Fallout being so like gritty and everything being so like literally gritty and like worn in, I think it's awesome that they went very practical, seemingly as much as they could. That is something I want to mention that I mentioned previously, how the power armor is like sometimes practical and sometimes CGI. Outside of the
Mhm.
pilot, I don't know if there's really like a single shot of CG on the power armor besides them like flying around or whatever. It's
Yeah.
kind of amazing how it moves, and it seems like there's just an actor in there moving, and it just all articulates like perfectly how you'd expect. That that's
Yeah.
some that's some crazy stuff.
Yeah. The hands they remind me very much so of, like, the Thanos hand or the Iron Man Iron Gauntlet or whatever,
Mhm.
Infinity Gauntlet hands. Like, when it showed them, like, moving, I was like, "That looks like a toy," but in the best way possible. Like, it looks so yeah, just the fact that everything's practical, it puts, like, a spark of realism in it that just, like, tops everything off.
100%. 100%. I really like how they're doing the kind of dual timeline thing. I think the character of Poop is just as interesting as the character of Ghoul. You know what I
Mhm,
mean? I like that they're kind of showing those two things parallel. It also they kind of do this in Westworld, extremely minor Westworld spoiler, where you kind of see a character at two perspectives, and you're like, how is this the same person? And then they
mhm.
slowly reveal little things that show how someone can go from one thing to another. That's also interesting to me. Like, really not telling I like that they're not telling just a singular story of like one
Mhm,
person in the wasteland. Someone pointed out that I think it was in that same IGN interview, maybe they pointed out that Lucy is good, Maximus is neutral, and the ghoul is bad. And it's a nice representation of kind of the different ways you can play Fallout as well,
mhm.
which I really like. I think that's a very, very neat idea.
Yeah. I I get that. I I do think the ghoul is bad. You know, his choosing not necessarily, like, the evil things that may happen in dialogue, but his
Mhm.
choosing, like, the dick things, like, like,
Yeah.
to be the
Mhm.
biggest dick in the game, like, that's what his kinda choosing because he just doesn't care.
Right.
But yeah, someone also said, like, it's like the good, the bad, and the ugly,
Mm.
where,
Yeah.
Maximus is the ugly because he's kinda just in it for himself
Mhm.
because he doesn't know what he wants. He just
Yeah.
wants to, help himself, but just chooses the dumbest things possible sometimes.
Yeah, he's like a good guy when he doesn't have another option that's selfish.
Yeah,
As soon as it's something that will benefit him in some way, he'll just like take the easiest route.
totally, yeah. But yeah,
Yeah.
that's a good part of it. I'm very interested in seeing the ghoul's story arc later on, just because there is something, or at least we think there's something happening with his family. What you find out at
Mhm.
the end of the show, and also after the antagonist, the leader of the raiders, she survived and she looks exactly the same as she did in 2077. Yeah, is his family still alive? Did they age? Are they ghouled out, or are they just, dead somewhere?
Yeah.
So I'm interested in know his story. Like, even though his like one of those bad guys that you kind of root for.
Mhm. Yeah. I love the when she bites off his finger and then he cuts off her finger. All that sort of stuff. There's so many just like little clever fun
Hmm.
things in the show that just keep it so interesting scene to scene. Jonathan Nolan very clearly is such a good filmmaker,
Yeah.
and I was really impressed because, well, I'll lead in with this. I have a slight worry just in the nature of TV shows. They like basically make them until they get bad and no one watches them a lot of the time. And Westworld, I really started to fall off with like season 3.
Hmm.
Whatever. If we get one good season of Fallout and then everything's bad, I'll be very grateful for the one good season we just got.
For sure.
But
Yeah.
I do have hope because I think it's episode 3 or 4 was one of my favorite episodes. I remember it ending and me being like, "Damn, that was a good where Lucy right after what I was talking about with the finger thing, where he takes Lucy to get her organs taken,
Oh
he like
yeah.
sells her. That episode was not written by Jonathan Nolan in it or yeah, sorry. That episode was not directed by Jonathan Nolan and not written by the writer of the
Hmm.
first 3 episodes, and it was amazing.
Yeah.
So, I really hope that they just continue. I'm sure he can't direct the entire thing, but I hope that they continue to get really good people that understand the show and format and everything.
Totally. And also the fact that as like egomaniac as like Todd Howard is and everything, I'm glad they have him as a showrunner also though. It's good that
Mhm.
he's there and like executive producing it and stuff, because I don't want it to go too wacky into nothing. Like
Sure.
I want it to stay in this universe, and I don't want crazy dumb twist. I mean, Todd Howard does his dumb twist too, and we all know what's going to happen. It's going to be your dad is gone from the vault, and you have to go find him, or in Starfield,
Mhm.
same story or whatever.
Yep.
But
And
it's
they do
nice.
that in this too. The dad
They
goes
do.
missing
Y-
immediately.
Yeah, that's the first thing that happens.
Yeah,
But the fact that like they're checking and balancing each other, I think is great so far,
for sure.
at least for a season.
Totally. Totally. I if I have to give some complaints, my only real complaint is that in the first 4 episodes, mainly I think it was mainly episode 2 and 3, there's like 8 or so moments where a character is like about to die seemingly, and they're like, "Whoa, whoa, whoa," and then Maximus swings in out of nowhere in the power armor, or the saw blade's coming at her face and she's like, all tied up and then just like kicks it. And you're like, wait,
Hmm.
were her legs not bound? It's just weird. I don't mind like one or two of those things. It's a show for God's sake, but there was a surprising amount in a very short amount of time. And then they didn't really do too much of that. going forward, but it was enough to where Sam and I both noticed it and called it out.
Yeah, it does get into the realm of almost too cheesy or in that
Sure.
sense, like
Tropey, maybe?
yeah, tropey, there you go.
Yeah.
But I'm glad they dial it back pretty quick into the season because
Yeah.
the end of the show actually gets pretty like serious in a way.
Mhm. Yeah.
Besi- Besides that, but the with the chicken fucker again, that whole nonchalant scene of um the squire getting shot in the
Mhm.
neck,
Yeah.
and he was like, I think you're a ghoul. And he pulls
Yeah.
it out and he was like, oh man, I gotta get out of here before they come find me.
Yeah. That scene made me laugh a lot too.
It was so good. But like it gets pretty serious like at the
Mhm.
last two episodes and it
Yeah.
in a really good way.
Yeah. Agreed. Uh, I wanted to bring up Fred Armisen is in that scene
Mm,
as the
mhm.
as the radio DJ, which is
Yeah.
excellent. He's hilarious always.
He kind of plays
But
himself like that music nerd.
totally. Yeah, yeah, 100%. Apparently he's exactly that awkward in real life. He's like always that just who he is. And apparently he's the biggest music nerd and Beatles nerd, especially.
Mhm.
So I I love when he's like, "Do you hear that sound? Do you hear that? Do you hear it? The bass comes through in the treble and in the mids." It's just everything. Oh my gosh.
Oh, the
Yeah,
mids
he
sound
cracked
really
me up.
good in this one. Yeah.
Yeah.
He has no idea what he's saying.
In that interview with Jonathan Nolan, he specifically mentions that in every show he's worked on, there's been some minor cameo or bit character that always comes back in a major way in the following season. So fingers crossed that it's Fred Armisen.
Oh, that'd be amazing.
But yeah, speaking of that too, the guy who voices Codsworth is Codsworth in the show,
Mhm.
and then also in the flashbacks, you meet him.
Yeah.
And it's the actual guy. I forget the name of that actual robot. It's like Mr. I don't know. I don't remember.
I don't remember
But
what it is either.
Codsworth is the one I know most from Fallout 4. But
Yeah.
yeah, having tying in getting the original voice actor I thought was the cool cameo, and then they do the flashback and it's actually him, and he's like making jokes about how the company gifted him a robot and now he has to deal with his own voice assisting him around the house is so funny. There's so many good just like uh jokes about Fallout that
Totally.
feel like could only come from someone that knows the games really well.
Mhm.
The whole Todd Howard talked about this as well, and Todd Howard is not the most honest in interviews, but he kind of says whatever the interviewer is going to like. But he does say that the the team from Westworld, essentially the like main production team, was extremely knowledgeable on the games going in. Like he didn't
Mhm.
have to. He wasn't just there to like correct stuff all the time, which I think
Yeah.
is very clear in the way characters are written, the world feels, yada yada.
Oh, yeah. No, it's everything is done almost perfectly. It's just like I said, like the story arcs on every character, like if they're reoccurring or not, everyone has impact in the story, and it's done so well.
Yeah.
I hope second season is good.
Yeah,
Oh,
speaking of the second season, the freaking last shot hits us with a double whammy. We have the big bad guy taking the power armor somewhere, and
yeah.
then they show a Deathclaw skull. Deathclaws don't show
Mhm.
up for the whole series. I was assuming that would happen, but apparently it's a season 2 tease. Show a Deathclaw skull and then a seemingly abandoned or run down New Vegas. And that was
Mhm.
I now know how 45-year-old men felt when Thor's hammer appeared at the end of Iron Man. I was like, Sam, that's New Vegas. And she was like, what? It's like, it's the game everyone loved. Yeah, I'm stoked. That is a great tease to me. It's immediately you have the question of I don't know, maybe I'm a dummy who doesn't know the lore very well, but you immediately are like, "Oh, it's New Vegas, but why are none of the lights on? Why is it kinda?"
Hmm.
So, not only is it a nice, like, Easter egg, but it immediately fills your head with kinda wonder about what the next season could be.
Oh, totally. Yeah, I'm very interested to know what happened to New Vegas. Like,
Mhm.
if they're going to another city, it's so cool that does that mean later on also we're gonna get I know I'm going a little like way beyond now, but are they gonna go to
Do it.
like Boston? Are they gonna go to the Commonwealth
Mhm.
eventually? Are they gonna go to
For sure.
Virginia? Like,
Yep.
are we gonna get that cool? Because I think the first game is based in Shady Grove.
Yeah. Shady Sands?
Shady
Or is
Sands, yeah.
Yeah. Yes,
I
I
think
believe you're right. I only know that because of do you wanna move on to the light controversy? Do you
yes,
have
we can.
anything I don't need to rush us if you have anything else,
No,
uh,
I mean,
any closing
yeah,
thoughts?
yeah, no, let's go on to it. Um,
So, yeah, with the note that neither of us are lore experts in Fallout, more so mentioning this because I feel like we can't talk about the show without mentioning this at that point.
mhm,
Um, a decent amount of people online, their kind of main lore complaint with the show is that at this point, Shady Sands should uh can't be destroyed because it's destroyed. No, it should already be destroyed because it was destroyed at the end of New Vegas in one of the
mhm.
DLCs, right? So how can it get bombed now? It's like 16 years later or something like that.
Yeah, I think it's even shorter than that. I think it's
Yeah.
like maybe like 8 to 12 years. But yeah,
Okay.
it's yeah, it is interesting. Um, on the interview with Jonathan Nolan and Todd Howard on IGN, Todd Howard does say that there could have been an explosion right after, or things happened right after the events of New Vegas that are not captured or recorded anywhere, and that's where we're led to now. He does say that everything is canon,
Mhm.
but as you said before, he likes to tell the interviewer anything that they want to hear.
He's like, we're working in a very like small timeline. Like he's aware that it's like a little bit seemingly he's aware that it's a little bit like not even doesn't make sense, but it's a little bit convenient for the
Yeah.
way it works in the timeline. But his explanation is basically that Shady Sands got bombed to hell in New Vegas, but this in the show references more of like a mini nuke. They stumble upon this massive crater of this like
Yeah.
sort of mini nuke that like really demolished the city just a few years later or whatever it winds up being.
Mhm.
Which that's fine for me. I personally don't care too much, but I'm not as invested in the story and lore as much as a lot of the internet apparently, which is
No, yeah, same. I mean, whatever. The show's good. I feel like
Mhm.
we should leave it at that. And it does
Yeah.
connect to the same universe you know, in most of its continuity, so just leave it. It's great.
Yeah,
Let's keep on having good shows.
agreed. I think the only way they could have avoided anything like this was to take the Marvel approach or whatever, where they're like, we're doing our own thing. It doesn't connect at all. And I would rather have something that fits in 99%
Hmm.
than something that is decidedly n- non-canon from the games or something.
Totally. Yeah.
That does remind me, I was going to mention one more nitpick, and then I'll end it on a positive note. Uh, how many times are they going to show Maximus getting out of that fucking fridge? There's like 8 times where they remind us that he crawled out of a fridge and saw someone in power armor and wanted to join the Brotherhood of Steel. It's like
I
literally
don't
8 or 9 times.
I don't know if they're trying to convince us that's what happened and he wants to become
Mhm.
a member of the Brotherhood, or if they're trying to convince him again because he's watching it. Because, like, yeah, why did it show it? I get it.
Yeah. Yeah, it
That
bothers me when shows, like, do those flashbacks to remind you, and you're like, "It was like an episode and a half ago, I remember." And this show was actually really good about not doing that. There were multiple moments where they reference something from, like, 4 episodes ago, and they just trust the audience to be smart enough to remember and be paying attention enough,
totally
which I really appreciate. Honestly, that whole topic I just brought up, more positive than negative from the show.
agreed. Um, yeah, and with the use of flashbacks that we do have in the show, specifically like 2077,
Mhm.
I think it's really well done and not overdone. It's
Yeah.
like I want to know what happened back then and what Voltec was up to and everything. Um, so it's great. I hope there's not too much of that going forward because
Mhm.
I don't want a flashback show. I don't know if
For
you
sure.
ever watched. Did you ever watch Arrow?
I did. I watched, like, the first 3 seasons, maybe?
Yeah, it was pretty good.
Yeah.
Every other episode was a fucking flashback
Yeah.
with his shitty wig.
Yeah. Yeah, the wigs and the flashbacks always get me.
Like every other like I only how long were you at that island? It's
Yeah.
like I don't want the show to be have so many flashbacks that it's like, it it could have lasted as long as like the entirety of like Simpsons. Like yeah, they've been 11 for 13 years.
Yeah. The way I normally describe Fallout to people that haven't played it is I think one of the reasons Fallout is so interesting is because it's almost like 2 worlds that have enough lore and intrigue on their own
Mhm.
smashed together. You have like this weird 1950s but also futuristic world, which is like, oh, I could play a game in that. I could watch a movie in
Oh
that.
yeah.
And then it's like, well, what if they had an apocalypse? And then there's all this radiation and like shit gets weird. And it's like shit was already weird. It's like, yeah, but
Yeah.
weirder. Uh so I do like that I am justified in explaining it that way, and they seem to also be kind of taking interest in those 2 different worlds, but I would certainly like to see more of Lucy's timeline and everything like that. Um,
Mhm.
my closing thing on the show is I mentioned in the first episode that Lucy is the exact type of character that they try to make interesting and likable and funny in so many things, especially over the past, like, I don't know, 10 to 20 years maybe. And I don't know if I've ever liked that type of character more than in this
Mhm.
show. And I think what's so cool is she easily could have gone the route of like by the end of the show, she's wearing power armor and she's like stomping on dudes and she's like, you know, no, I'm out of the vault. But she the world changes her very directly and she has a lot of growth, but she never changes from the like bubbly, quirky center. Like she never
Okie dokie.
loses. Yeah, she never loses her okie dokie. Yeah,
Mhm.
exactly. Uh, and that's a hard thing to pull off too. And I think she's such a good character because they like rode that balance perfectly. You can't have her change too much. You can't have her not change at all. And they like just perfectly that into the finale.
Yeah, like, I love that. I like what you said just because she's still her Oakley Dokley, Ned Flanders
Yeah.
person, but, like, in a battle-hardened world, and she like you
Hmm.
said, she didn't become this, like, you know, war-torn person that
Right.
can rip your nose off and, I don't know, do whatever. You're
Super
like
jaded. Yeah.
yeah. No, it's great. That was a great story arc, and character arc, and I'm very excited to see what, like, her story leads to next.
Yeah. 100%. So, with the show being so good, it's probably no surprise that a lot of people are either replaying or buying Fallout 4 and Fallout 76. Big surge of players, essentially, in both those games. So I I was looking into Fallout 76
Mhm,
specifically. I am replaying 4 right now, but I've never touched 76. It had a really rough launch, but people seem to be enjoying it a lot more now.
mhm.
In 80% on Steam more, to be exact. It seems
Yeah,
like it's a little
wild.
more playable as, like, a single player experience, like, it's online and everything, but there's I think there was, like, a really big lack of quests when it first launched and really relied on, like, player interaction and,
Mhm.
shoot, what are they called? Where there'll be, like, a big player event, like a 40-person whatever.
Yeah.
And it seems like they have updated it a lot to where it's more performant, less broken, but also much more enjoyable as a kind of solo Fallout experience, even if it is online.
Oh, totally. I I'm actually been thinking about playing this game, uh, this past week. I've
Yep.
been looking up reviews and, like, if it's still good to play in 2024 and all these dumb
Hmm.
reviews people put up on YouTube.
Yes.
But yeah, it is looking intriguing. There looks like there's enough single player things that I'll be happy enough to play by myself and then eventually get into, like, PvE and stuff.
But yeah, with Fallout 4 being a little broken, apparently, it is good news that Fallout 4 is getting a free next gen update.
Mhm. I am so excited to
Yes.
be playing this game on PS5 and Xbox Series X and S up to 60 FPS?
Whoa, no way. I heard that it's
What?
finally I heard that it's finally widescreen as well. These are both 2 things that they listed in their official press release. Truly next
Uh,
gen. Widescreen? I've been playing Fallout in 1 by 1 resolution on a CRT all this time.
that's
Yeah,
wild that that's what they put on here.
it feels like
That's
someone wrote it that doesn't play video games.
it has to be. Like,
Yeah.
they just hired it or they hired an intern or they had, like, ChatGPT do this or something.
Mhm.
It's so it tells us I mean, if you look at the page,
Yeah.
it's pretty long, there's a lot of pictures on it.
Mhm.
There's a lot of things said, but it's just, like, stating nothing.
Yeah. The good things are it says it improves stability and performance, which are
Mhm.
far and away the biggest things. Like
Yeah,
I don't know what if you have ultra wide or if you have a Steam Deck that's like a little bit taller, playing with black bars is the least of my concerns when the game crashes or deletes saves even.
totally.
So, you know, Bethesda is now owned by Microsoft, so I do have some hope that they put in the money and resources to like really clean up the game. It would be nice if you can play it over 60 FPS on PC. I mean, Xbox and PlayStation have 120 hertz modes. I
Yeah,
don't know why this game wouldn't be able to do that,
they have
but
120 hertz and they have variable refresh rate. Like they're more
right.
than powerful enough to run this old ass game. If
Yeah.
you can run God of War Ragnarok at 120 frames on a PS5 and Forza at 120 frames on
Yeah.
Xbox, like why can't we run this game that came out during the PS4 and Xbox One era?
Yes. Yes. On one hand, I am happy that it will hopefully run better than ever. You
Hmm.
know, fingers crossed, I guess, that it won't crash, etc. Ideally,
It'll
um,
still crash.
it'll probably still crash. But for people that have ultra wides, you know,
Yeah.
it does say it has ultra wide support, so it's like you don't have to download that mod.
Hmm.
That's nice.
Yeah.
But it would have been nice for them to update a little more. You know, it's free, so I really can't complain too much. We'll see how it launches.
They got paid. They got Microsoft money. Like
Mhm. I could still
it's
see this having a rough launch, to be honest. I could see this still not working great
yeah.
for
I
a
mean,
few.
with with their track record, definitely. I mean, if it if I download this update and it just runs, I'll be happy. If
Yeah.
I as long as I'm like running above 60 FPS, I'll definitely be happy. It I'm not expecting too much because it's Bethesda and
Yeah.
it's like they don't do remasters ever, and this is not a remaster, it's just
Mhm.
an update. So
Yeah.
I'm excited, but also big news, especially for anyone who's a Steam Deck player, which I want to be one day, but it will be
Firing.
Steam Deck verified.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it, I'm hoping that if it can be Steam Deck verified and run at 90, hopefully 90 FPS on there or
Yeah.
60, um, it should be pretty substantial for PC players too.
Yeah, the Steam Deck verification is not flawless. It you know, oftentimes means that it can run at 90 hertz like the OLED natively runs.
Hmm.
The fact that they mention specifically 60 FPS for consoles and don't mention anything for PC worries me.
Yeah,
I want to say that they would mention, you know, up to 144 or unlocked frame rate or something if they did fix that. But the fact that it is Steam Deck verified says something. That when it's announced ahead of time, that certainly means Valve was in some degree. So I'd like to think that's some sort of stamp of approval on the quality of it.
totally. Totally, totally. Um, but I'm I mean, you have to download this, so I will be downloading this. I'm excited to have it for my uh PS5 just because as much as I like, PC gaming, sometimes I just want to sit on the couch and use a controller and sit back and play a game on the big screen.
Yep,
So,
for
I'm
sure.
definitely looking forward to this and I will be downloading it next week
Awesome.
because if you playing the game it's mandatory. Kind of.
Small note as well. I Fallout 3 remaster was leaked in those big that massive Microsoft leak that happened,
Yeah.
let's say a few months ago at this point, maybe
Mhm.
6 months ago. I am having my fingers crossed. It feels weird that the show is out with no major Fallout news otherwise. This is fine. This feels like the bare minimum they should be doing is making the most recent Fallout game fucking playable.
Yeah, seriously. Um,
They've also said the next Fallout game is quite a long ways off, which could be their little sly way of, Fallout 3 is technically already been released. I have my fingers crossed that they will announce the Fallout 3 master in the next couple weeks, but I also I wouldn't bet on it either.
Totally. And also, I feel like with them saying that, it's just also saying, like, stop asking us about any updates.
Yeah.
Here's Fallout 4.
Yeah. We might be waiting on a new Fallout game for a little bit, but something I've had my eye on for a little bit is Fallout London, which sounds and looks very cool. There is a team, a very small team that by their um by their own estimation is a DLC sized Fallout Fallout expansion. It's built on Fallout 4 and it's more Fallout set in London. They did their own voice acting. They're making all of their own quests. Uh
Music.
Music, yeah, text. I mean, it's brand new textures and models and it's wild. It's very
Yeah,
impressive.
it
Uh,
looks awesome. Just like the little screenshots and the little trailer they have. It looks so cool.
yeah, it looks very cool. They say DLC size, but when they talk about how big the map is, it sounds a little bit bigger than a DLC. So I guess we'll have to see. But it sounds amazing. It looks amazing. There's multiple trailers out for it. The only
Hmm.
problem, we've had a few delays, and they finally made a confirmed this is when we're releasing it, and now it is delayed indefinitely until they get their hands on the Fallout 4 update because it could break everything.
Hmm.
I guess not everything, but a lot of things. So they will have to set a new date in the future unless there are very minimal to no changes, but a little bit of a bummer.
I feel like they shouldn't be as scared as they actually are about this update.
Yeah.
I don't think it's gonna be it's not a ground up remaster or remake or anything. It's just Bethesda cleaning some code, probably adding some lines and making the game not so broken. So I do have faith that this game will come out this or the expansion come out this year. I'm hoping. I want it so bad.
Yeah, I can't wait for it to be out, so I was kind of sad to hear this, but I also agree that I don't think they're going to be changing so much. I'm not
Mhm.
a coder. I haven't worked on mods,
True.
but
Yeah,
I have a strong feeling that at least in time it will only make Fallout London a better experience, a more stable experience. I would have to assume.
totally.
The The what this makes me think of is I don't think you played Enderall, which was the Skyrim
Mm-mm.
expansion. A smaller team made their own RPG using the Skyrim engine and kind of base, but they did voice acting and all that. And it's like a full blown, like literally Skyrim sized experience, which is
Wow.
unbelievable. If you haven't played Enderall and you love Skyrim, you should absolutely check it out. It's
I'll
really
download
great.
it.
They completely redo the way you level up, like your skill tree,
Mhm.
and it's way more feels way more modern, way more intuitive. So I know it's a completely different team, but my standards are set a little bit high for a we're making our own RPG out of a Bethesda RPG,
Mhm.
but everything they've shown so far looks amazing. So I can't wait to play it when it does come out.
Yeah, I'm excited.
So a new game is coming out in wait, no. A new game is out. It just came out. No Rest for the Wicked.
Yeah, in
It
early
is from
access.
Thank you. It is in early access. It's only on PC right now. It will be coming to PlayStation and Xbox at a later date. It is from Moon Studios, who made the Ori games, Ori and the Blind Forest, Ori and the Will of the Wisp, and
Mhm.
I absolutely love both of those games.
Totally,
This
totally.
is a big departure for them because the Ori games are 2D side scroller Metroidvanias.
Mhm.
Really beautiful art style. The second one looks and plays a lot better than the first one, but they're both really good. And it seems like they're kind of taking everything they've learned and trying to put their own spin on an ARPG, action RPG, which there's a lot of Metroidvanias out there, but there's a lot of action RPGs. So, I'm not going to say I was worried, but I was just kind of interested to see every little thing they show.
Mhm.
And Digital Foundry got an a lot of exclusive footage showing a first look of the game and showing off some of the tech. It has an incredible art style. It's reminiscent of Ori, but decidedly its own thing. It's got that kind of gloomy, bloomy. Ori is a perfect HDR game, as in HDR is perfectly implemented, but then also the
Mhm.
look of the game just gets um, emphasized by HDR in such a beautiful way. And they certainly have that here, but it is a 3D game as opposed to Ori, right? And it's kind of amazing that they could take this kind of 2D hand painted art style and have just such like a beautiful resolved image in every frame. Digital Foundry points it out, but if you are not moving your character and it's just still, there's certain scenes where it literally looks hand drawn. It's kind of wild.
Yeah, the game is ridiculously pretty. I mean, like I haven't played it. I haven't got it yet.
Yeah.
Um, but just looking at trailers and screenshots of it, it is so pretty. So like everything looks hand drawn and hand painted. Like if you have a chance, go to this, go open up Steam and just look at the screenshots. It's amazing,
Yeah.
but it's also so vivid. It's like I feel like the um like Diablo is just so gray and kind of
Yeah.
boring.
Hmm.
Where this is just, you have like your ocean, sand, like every type of setting, and it's just so well done in its art style. I
Absolutely. Yeah.
I'm excited.
100%. I think this come out today, I want to say. Uh,
Yeah, today.
yeah. I will be buying this and playing it tonight. Uh,
Hmm.
I'll get the one negative out of the way. It seems fairly non-performant, which is unfortunate. There's a lot of um there's moments in the Digital Foundry video where they have their like CPU utilization up, and they're using, a 3900K and a 4090, and the 4090 is sitting at like 50% GPU utilization and the frames are at like 55, which is, just a sign that the game is not using the hardware to its fullest extent and not utilizing it properly. So that's unfortunate. It has mixed reviews on Steam right now, from what I can tell, almost solely due to that. But
Hmm.
it is early access. It is 10% off right now. It's a $40 game. So I think it's 36 bucks right now. Not making excuses. I hate when games release in a not great state, but it runs on Steam Deck even. It runs at a mostly I'm not going to say a rock solid 30. I haven't played it yet, but it seems like it runs mostly at 30 even on Steam Deck, so that's a pretty good sign. that most any modern computer can at least run it at a somewhat acceptable frame rate. They should be updating it, right? It's early access. I think they've already mentioned that they're working on performance. There's very clear moments, I think, that are physics based, especially that clearly are messing with the engine a bit. It's very interesting. It's built on Unity, but they have injected of so much customization into the engine that I guess they call it Moonity, which is kind of funny.
It's awesome.
Moon Studios. But yeah, if any of this interests you, watch the Digital Foundry video. I'll link it below. I'm not worried about losing any of our 100 viewers to Digital Foundry. It's a super interesting video. We can highlight a few things they talk about, but there's so much fascinating tech in this. The fact that it's running in Unity and this performant at all is surprising. It doesn't justify it, but it is surprising and kind of amazing.
Totally.
Um, Before I get into a few specific things that stood out to me, Dom, do you have any thoughts on any of that?
No, yeah, I watched the video earlier, like on my way home from work,
Me
and
too.
it it looks so cool. I was reading some of the mixed reviews. Some of them are kind of dumb. There are some performance ones, but there are some like I died more times on here than I have on Elden Ring. I'm like,
Yeah,
I don't know. Get better.
there's always that.
Yeah.
I know how it works. I get it, but it is kind of silly. It feels like when a game is getting a lot of negative reviews for maybe a justifiable reason, there's a lot of people that then feel like they want to pile on in
Oh, for
whatever
sure.
way, whatever little complaint they have.
It's like
And
how
there's
did
definitely
this
it's getting some of that for sure.
how did this game get more mixed reviews than in its first day than Pal World did? I played Pal World. I played it for like 2 weeks. That game's trash.
Yeah,
Like they need so much work. And this game, I haven't played it yet, but it just looks so much more fleshed out
right.
watching the Digital Foundry video. Like they only mentioned that it was performance issues. They weren't really mentioning like any game breaking bugs
Mhm.
or anything that happened, if I remember correctly. And it's it just looks like such a beautiful game, and I'm so excited for what they're like the other things they're working on in the game. Like there's that whole like the mud simulation,
Yeah.
which was so cool. It's like your character like walks different in the mud, but he's also like um displacing it in such a nice like it looks still cartoony but so real at the same time. It looks so cool.
Yeah, it there's so much impressive tech. They again, if you're into this tech stuff, check out the video. They go into detail on every single one of these things. But the rain physics are incredible.
Oh yeah.
Um, the way characters even get wet and then they'll swing their sword and you can watch like waves of water like follow their arm off and like spray off. They show that future tech of the mud. And yeah, a lot of the animations seem I don't think they're procedural, but some of the animations look borderline procedural, like aka like rendered on the fly.
Hmm.
Because like they show a guy chopping an axe and it looks like the axe is like getting stuck in the tree each time to like a different level to where like his yank out is slightly different every time and his swing back is slightly different every time. The mud stuff reminds me of Snow Runner, I think is the game. Like you know those driving games where you like see the mud like turn under the wheels. They're
Yeah.
working on that. They're working on some water simulation, which looks really impressive. Like fog simulation, it's crazy.
Hmm.
But the actual gameplay appears to be very Souls inspired, which is what people have been saying for a long time about. any game that has combat now, but genuinely looks pretty Soulsy in
Hmm.
terms of actual difficulty, but then it's all about timing your attacks, timing your parry, timing your dodge. A lot of the enemies are these really big creatures that move in crazy ways and jump into the air and come down and in weird ways. It does seem apt to call this pretty Soulsy. Another thing I really like is the world does they're directly inspired from Animal Crossing in the way of you have that top down isometric a
Hmm.
angle, but normally when you do that in like a game engine you're just staring at the floor, which is not very exciting. So they literally wrap the entire like visible world on sort of like a barrel, that way you can see over the horizon no matter where the camera is positioned, and it makes the game have so much like depth and scale. It's really cool. They show it in the video of them like turning it on and off. Apparently they had to rework how the lighting works and how like textures work and model placement, because, as soon as you curve the world, the lighting is going to hit every
Yeah.
single piece at like a different angle. Yeah, it's kind of unbelievable. Um
Yeah, it's
Not to mention
crazy.
like the cutscene rendering quality. It's crazy. Yeah.
And then there's like a whole separate engine for input. So like what
Right.
you're inputting into the game has nothing to do with like its graphic, like the graphics won't
Frame
hold you
rate.
back. Frame rate, yeah.
Yeah.
That is so fucking cool, especially in a game
Yeah.
that's all based on reaction.
Yeah,
Like
absolutely.
that is so cool.
Yeah, I don't think I can explain it any better, but yeah, the like physics and motion of the world is not directly tied to frame rate in a way it seems like no other game has done before. Again, I haven't played it, but that's what it sounds like, to where
Yeah.
kind of no matter what frame rate you're playing it at within reason, you'll get a strange level of input accuracy, I guess. The only thing I've that I can relate it to is on the Steam Deck OLED, for instance. If you're running a game at 30 frames, you can keep the refresh rate of the device at 90 hertz, because 30 perfectly, loops into
Mhm.
90. And I've only ever played 30 FPS games on like a console on the TV, and it feels laggy as hell. But when your system is running at 90 and it's registering your inputs at 90 hertz, it feels miles better. So this sounds like an even better version of that.
Yeah.
So, yes, so much interesting tech. The With that said, the graphics settings at the moment are apparently pretty darn minimal. They have HDR, they have Dolby Atmos surround sound, so they have some like uh surprisingly high end features, I guess, but most of the quality of the game I think is basically just like low, medium, high, and not really much more detailed than that. But, it's early access. They're calling it early access. It's $40 for this game that they've been working on very clearly for a long, long time. I I have my trust that this will get updated sooner rather than later to fix a lot of these issues.
Oh, totally. I do have one thing also about it that I'm a little iffy on.
Yeah.
System requirements. Um, Intel Core i5 8400 for a processor, or AMD Ryzen 526, 16 gigs of RAM, NVIDIA GeForce GTX 970, or AMD Radeon RX Vega 56. That's for the minimum. For the recommended, an Intel Core i5 12600K or AMD Ryzen 7 5800X 3D. The graphics that they're recommending is the 3070 Ti. I just got a 3070 a year and a half ago. What the fuck? Come on.
Yeah, that low end's crazy though. That
The
low
lo
end is
Yeah.
wildly low, which I guess is
Yeah.
why the Steam Deck can run it at mostly 30.
But what
Yeah,
about the
that's a little strange.
recommended, man?
Yeah. Well,
That's my
Dom, I don't
that's
know
my
what to
only
tell
hot
you.
take.
It's the year of the CPU. I thought I would be safe getting having the CPU be my bottleneck. I thought I could get away with that for a little bit, but Starfield taught me that I apparently will be running every game at 8K, 25 FPS, and no matter what I change my resolution to, I will be hitting 25 FPS.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm going to play this week for sure. So I'll talk about it more on the next one. Do
Same,
you think
same.
you'll be I know you have a Stellar Blade to play coming up soon as well.
Yes. Yeah. Next week, Stellar Blade comes out the same day as the Fallout 4 update, which is
Oh, okay.
I'll be playing Stellar Blade. But
Yeah.
that game, I just played the demo. I played it like 3 times already. It's so fun. It's it's it, I mean, I think I said it already, but it's like, like a Souls like and Devil May Cry set in like the world of like Final Fantasy. It's like
Awesome.
so cool. I'm so excited for this game.
Yeah, it seems amazing. I don't 5, but if I get one, I'll play it. If they release it on PC in 3 years or whatever they've been doing, I'll play it.
Totally.
But it looks amazing. It looks amazing, and everyone loves the demo.
Yeah. It's good.
Last thing I'll mention real quick is last thing we'll mention real quick. Excuse me. Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 just announced.
Hmm.
Just announced right before we started recording. People really like the first one. There's some people that can't get into kind of how realistic it is, which makes it a little bit slow, but we rarely get games like this,
Hmm.
especially from like a double A studio. If you haven't played it or looked into it, it's a very realistic medieval RPG. Like they got historians to help write the game, and even with the way they model clothes, like they had historians give input on that. It's a very unique game. I played probably the first like 5 hours of it. To be honest, I really liked it, but I think I need more. If I had more time to dedicate to gaming, I think I'd probably love the first one.
Hmm.
Um, but you start out as like a peasant, and everyone can beat your ass, and you can't do anything well at all, which makes it more satisfying when you kind of get rolling later in the game. But this one looks like it has the same main character, so I'm curious if you're going to start out a little more knowledgeable. I mean, that character's in the trailer. Maybe you're playing as a new character and
Sure.
he's just in it. But from what I can tell, um, seems like the same main character. Should be interesting.
Yeah.
I think it's cool that we're getting another unique game like this.
Totally. Again, like you, or not like you, I did not play this game at
Mm-hmm.
all, but it does look cool. I do want to pick it up, especially because it's like I think it's like $7 right now on Steam.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so I might pick it up and put a couple hours in it. It just for it sounds so cool to play a game that's historically accurate and like just looks really pretty. Also, like it looks
Oh
really
yeah.
pretty. But yeah, just like a double A game that's super cool and an RPG. So yeah, I'm gonna pick it up, see
Mhm.
how I like it, and see what happens. But yeah, I'm happy for any game studio to release something that's like so off the beaten track.
Yeah. 100%. 100%. Well, I think that's going to do it for this week. we will be playing No Rest for the Wicked. We'll
Mhm.
try out the Fallout update, and we'll get back to you next week.
All right.
See ya.
I think that's all we'll have for it, to be honest, since neither of us have played it.
Yep. Yep. Agreed. We
No.
wiped our nose at the same time. That was cute.